Hey, Reliability Gang, I'm Jonathan Gagne.
And I'm Brendan Russ, and this is Reliability Radio, a JLL production and ReliabilityWeb.com media brand.
All right, everybody, we're here at day 3 of Maximo World. Really excited for the next 2 guests, Dave Reiber from Reliabilityweb and Rich McInnes from Net Results. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
You guys are both pretty passionate people about the industry in general, but most importantly about skilled trades gaps. Talk to me a little bit about what's going on.
Well, we've been talking about this for some time, and Rich calls me up and he goes, "Hey, we got to write the book." I'm like, "What do you mean write the book? Let's write the book." And I thought, he's right. That's the time. I mean, we've never seen such a gap in skilled trades in our history. We did a little research on it, and man, the hole is big and it's getting bigger. The skill sets are walking out the door so fast, and I don't see many young people that are anxious to get into the trade. There's a few folks working on it at a grassroots level, but it is time, and it's time. And in my case, I was a tradesperson when I first started this whole thing. I started as an electrician in 1985 at General Motors, and I climbed the ladder there to a global business manager on staff downtown Detroit. So I know the whole gamut of where you go and what you go through, and you know, I just love the trades. I love what it's about, and I told Rich, I'm in. And ever since then, it's been on a run. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The world is built off of this. So we've organized the book to kind of go past the present, if you will. What was the basic foundations of the skilled trades, and we can go all the way back to the original Stone Age person who took a tool and made a tool. And so the original skilled trades was the tool maker. And then we worked our way through the process as societies developed. For example, that guilds had to form around trades so that people in society could trust that they actually knew what they were doing. But also the reputation of the smithy or the carpenter, if I'm going to bring assistant on, that I have to trust that my reputation depends on that. But you don't want buildings to fall on people. You don't want things to explode. And so the trades actually were the first to kind of self-certify, self-regulate. And so we cover that at the beginning in the first chapter. And it really wasn't until the 17 or 1800s before engineers started certifying as the architects, engineers, ultimately working together with the trades. We've organized the book so that it's a conversation, and that our hope is that whoever's reading the book will find themselves in the book. So chapter 1 is Be the Trade, which is, am I interested in going into the trades? Do I have the knack? And so we begin with that chapter, and then chapter 2 is I am the trade. And then the challenge there is that not to get stagnant in your competency, if you will, how to continue to develop to a master level. The next one then is I lead the trade. And there we want to talk to the people in those leadership positions about the unique set of challenges they have working with some pretty unique people. And then the last chapter is I need the trade. I'm now the organization with maybe a fundamental question is how many electricians do I need? And then we'll close out the book with what we call the bigger questions. And the last one is present to future, where we begin to imagine future perfect assets, future perfect trades, future perfect technology, and then the stitching all of that together so that the people who join the trade, in the trade, lead the trades, need the trades, know that they will always have a future, and it's time to join. And I kind of blame Dave and I's baby boomers for creating this big gap, because we stayed in the field for so long, and to the point where the next generations really didn't have spaces, right? So, and then ultimately there was gaps that
there was a lot of what they called right sizing and downsizing. And the apprenticeships just shut off for a while.
Yeah.
They just didn't do anything with them. And for instance, in my particular area, when I got into the apprenticeship, they took 650 applicants, and they took 6 people. I would have never done it. I was going to school to be a teacher. But I thought, it's an omen. I took one, I'm one of 6. I guess I'll give this a run. And I did. And it springboarded me to a lot of other things. That's the other thing I want to encourage people about. You know, you take a trade, that doesn't mean your aspirations are done when you make journeyman. You can do so much with these skills. And I think, and the other thing about that, nobody can ever take it away from you. And I think that's really a big value. And as we talked about doing this, and at the beginning, it reminded me, I'm walking down a street in Egypt. I was doing a keynote speech for an international maintenance conference in Egypt. And this guy, my translator, is walking with me. He goes, "So how old do you think that building is?" And it's these great big blocks, and they're beautiful. And I said, "Oh, I'm trying to be, I know something. Well, I bet that's 400 years old." He goes, "That was built in 1009. Like, what?
Yes.
1009? And it looked beautiful. Tell me a tradesman didn't build that. An artisan. I'm not just a tradesperson, somebody with absolute skills. I mean, and the seams, beautiful.
Amazing.
And when you go to you stand underneath, if you ever been to Egypt and stand underneath the pyramids and actually see what's there,
You can stand underneath the
it
pyramid.
is mind-blowing. I mean, it is unbelievable. It's a mountain
Yes.
that men built in blocks that are so big, it's unfathomable till you see it. And so, and it just made me think about this whole thing, and that artisans have been around for a long, long time. Vocational trades have been around for a long, long time, but we lost focus on it. Now we want to send people to college and get your trade, get your skill or whatever. Well, what about the people who actually put pipe together and lay bricks, right? And pour foundations and do the work that has to get done. There's still work that has to get done. And they are artists. They're not just people. And we talked about this too. Electrician is not electrician. There's aces, and we all know who they are. It's the same with engineering. There's some that are just different, better, different skill sets, and then there's all these different levels. And so the holes here, and now we got to try to talk people into, what are you going to do? And I'm hearing people tell me, "Oh, with AI and all the analytics we got going on, we probably won't need the skilled tradespeople that much in the future." And I just look at them like, you're crazy. You still got to have people to do stuff.
I don't know any AI engine that is going to bend pipe or solder joints.
Thank you.
Amen.
I mean,
and amen.
and the pride and craftsmanship and some of the guys that are out there, right? You just talked about it, going back into setting blocks in Egypt versus, guys that can bend corners and just make stuff look pretty like art, right? It's an incredible piece. And I think we got to figure out how to elevate the conversation. And I don't know if the book's done yet, but I hope it's somewhere in there. You're talking about the new kids coming out today and looking at the return on investment in their own career, right? You think about going to trade school, you think about going to college. One, you're in massive amounts of debt and you may not get a job. Otherwise, you've been working for the last 4 years and you got no debt and you're already building a 401k.
Oh, we've done some studies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited about
But
this book.
I think you just listening to that, right? That first off, it's really an autobiography about Dave. I said that earlier. Because he worked his way as an individual. He has experience in every one of those chapters that I referred to. Starting out at the beginning, what do I do, all the way to organization, how many electricians do we need? But and we said in the chapter that I am the trade, we got feedback, well, trades guys aren't going to read this book. They don't read. They don't look at instructions, they just go out and do it, right? Because they have that hands-on capability. And then we said, well, is there a level beyond a master? And you hit on it. It's like it's almost magical. It's almost undefinable as you watch them bend pipe. Mm-hmm. And so we came up with thinking, well, that's an artisan. An artisan is, almost an artist. And
Yeah, they are.
But an artisan has a whole different meaning throughout history. So maybe we don't land on that word, but if we can challenge the audience, if you will, to come up with what do you call the master of the master? So that if I'm in the trade, how do I continue to motivate myself to learn, to understand new technologies, to perfect my techniques, if you will, for both construction, maintenance, overhaul, whatever the case may be, so that they're compelled to something. And if you asked a fundamental question like, who's the best basketball player of all time? Michael Jordan, that kind of stuff. And then I said, well, who's the best electrician of all time? They go, oh, Dave Reiber. No. Right? But we don't have those same kind of aspirational goals when the trades outnumber the engineers and architects, 20 20,000 to 1. And in their field, who do they have as role models other than what you see from the Roman aqueducts that existed, 325 years BCE, right? And they still exist today.
The guys that are working out there, though,
Yes.
it's just like the best journeyman I ever worked with when I was an apprentice said to me, he said, when we put that pipe bank up on that wall, we got to offset a 30-degree offset around there, and there's going to be 6 pipes, and they got to gradually, make their way around there. It's got to look like it grew there. I never forgot that. I thought that was such a great thing to say.
So you motivated. You have to be, as a master or as a journeyman electrician, you have to be the motivator. There's no external motivator.
Well, I'll tell you what was fun about it. So I got very good at it.
Yeah.
And so the next group, as your apprentice, they move you to different contractors. I go to the next contractor. We got this great big job. We got to put 80 electric motors on each side of 2 banks for this pickle place that sorts pickles. And so there's banks of pipes that go out starting at like 3-inch all the way down 2, all the way down to 1/2-inch pipes, drops down. And so the guys I'm with are like, oh, I'm not sure I want to tackle something like that. I'm like, I can do it. I'm a second-year apprentice. I can do it. They're looking at me.
Second-year apprentice. That's awesome.
They're looking at me like, really? I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I'll show you how to do it. And so we started putting that together. It was one of the proudest days of my life. I'm teaching those guys how to make those bends and gradually move them down, and it looked like artwork by the time we got done with it. And I just thought to myself, and the guy I was working with who taught me that, he said, I'd like to go back on jobs years later and just look at the artwork that we do. And I thought to myself, it's kind of an unsung hero, but in the same way, it's like it's a legacy because
It's not moving.
it's not going away.
It is your monument, and
It's that pride.
the
that
less
these guys
than
have.
1% are going to make it into a professional level athlete. Less than 1% of artists throughout the world will become renowned. But 99.99% of all that we see is made up by 90% of those who built that. And yet there's no, so this book was really meant, in essence, to not just communicate with them, but to say you're important.
I really love just the thought of the book. I love how there's something in there for everybody. Everybody needs to pick this book up if you're involved in any sort of trade, whether it's managing all the way down through entry level, first year apprentice, right? That's super cool. I got to know, how did you guys meet? Is there a story there?
Well,
yeah.
What was it? It was the a best practices conference between General Motors.
Oh no, there was a bunch of us.
Yeah,
Nissan was there,
Toyota,
Honda was there,
yeah,
Ford
Honda.
was there, GM was there, and Rich got to come and
My Ford contact invited me in to talk about the future in the maintenance space because I'd written books, and stuff like that. And I said, you guys are, and so I came in there and I started doing my, I have this, it's not a shtick, but basically I say future perfect. You got to know exactly where you're headed. And Dave was arguing, well, there's only invest in assets that never fail over their useful life. And he goes, that's not possible. I said, well, but it's directionally correct. And then at that point, he walks up to me after I made my presentation, and he's going to let me know that reality doesn't look like anything I just described. And now he's teaching CRL, right, as part of and he's stealing my stuff. It's just terrible.
Yeah,
It's
I told
terrible.
him he was nuts. I said, you're teaching, zero failure, and that's a pipe dream. Of course, at the time, I'm a general maintenance foreman, and I'm also a system owner of Maximo for a whole division of GM. And I'm like, we fix stuff, a lot of stuff, even stuff that vendors brought to me and said it's going to be great. They all break, and that's my attitude at the time. And he's up here teaching zero failure, and I was like, you're nuts.
I said, my issue is that their biggest failure is that all they can imagine is failure. I said, your biggest failure is you can't imagine perfection and pursue it. And you build in failure. If you look at an MRO inventory storeroom, for example, that's the unassembled plant. If all that stuff in that storeroom actually it's only there because it's waiting for something to fail or to be replaced. So that's how we first met.
Now I've changed my whole perspective about teaching vendors, suppliers, and trades folks, that customer gets what they want. It's the same reason why when you buy an automobile, whether you pay $25,000 for it or $150,000, you get Apple CarPlay, you get Android Play, you get all kinds of 68 screens of electronics because the customer demands it. So why is the customer in our business in maintenance and reliability not demanding, hey, I want the one that doesn't break. I know it's expensive, but my downtime's insanely expensive. Why don't you make me one of those? And when they get done laughing, just say, no, seriously, I want one of those.
Yeah, that's a great point. Awesome, guys. Like I said, really excited about the book. Do we have any idea when this thing's going to be on the streets, or?
Well, it's intended to be published for the International Maintenance Conference in December.
Yep.
So the first book, we're looking at a series, is to answer the bigger questions first. Using the philosophy, you're not allowed to ask the detailed questions until you answer the bigger questions first. So this first book is the bigger questions. And then Be the Trade will become another book where we get a little bit deeper. I Am the Trade, deeper. I Lead the Trades, deeper. And I Need the Trades, deeper. So you can imagine, if you will, a series of up to 5 books, if you will, that go deeper dive. But we didn't want to cram in this first book so much detail that, as some people we've interviewed said, because we've interviewed like 9 people, all different, from union guys to people off the floor, said, we won't read it if it looks like a textbook.
Right.
Yeah.
We've interviewed people from executive level right to front line.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, because we really want everyone's perspective. And we'd like Rich said, we wanted to appeal to the broad audience. And that first book covers a lot of information. And hopefully it makes them a little bit hungry for the next and the next and the next.
Oh, that's great. Rich, Dave, awesome. Thanks for spending the time with me today. It was a really great conversation. And for all of our listeners out there, thanks for listening. We'll see you real soon.
Thank you very much.